What's up, y'all? Happy Friday. We made it through another day. Made it through another week. Um, what's up, Jason? Hello. Man. All right.
Hey, Greg.
What's up,
How
Carmen?
are you?
I was just saying that we made it through another day, another week.
I
So
heard you.
I feel blessed to have made another day and another week. That's just where I'm at right now.
Amen. Okay, the Rona, I'm like somewhere between the Rona, the political environment, and then just my keyboard breaking. I'm like, I'll take the weekend. How
Yeah.
are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing
Yeah,
good. I feel like there's a lot going on, so I'm just trying to truck along
yeah.
and just take it in stride. But that's. How about you? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Honestly, I was sitting here eating a chicken salad. So if you see me snacking, just know that I'm actually hungry in real life. But I'm good. I had a great day and I'm working on some awesome projects. So I feel like even though the world is unsettled, I definitely feel personally like I am okay today.
Okay, okay, awesome. I'm really happy to hear that. I'm also just really grateful and thankful that you took some time. This particular conscious conversation, I am particularly excited about just because I feel like we haven't really had a time to really reflect on these last 11 years. And I
Mhm.
also think to your point, like we are in a unique moment. And I think that adds another layer to kind of the work that we were hoping to do through Can't Stop, Won't Stop, the work that we're doing even in, different parts of our lives now. And so I think it's going to be at least an exciting conversation for me. So
I hope so too. And actually, when I was reflecting back, I thought we've been doing this for 11 years. Like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I just met you the other day. I
well,
really
if you
do.
count Well, if you count the years of student organizing, and if you count the just kind of even before we started doing it full time, it's been like 15 years actually. If you
Has
really
it?
want
And you have
to,
still dealt with me. That is praise God. You you still deal with my shenanigans. Well, I'm so happy that we met. And I don't know if folks know this, but Greg and I met through USSA and we were just so different. And so, but we're not that different. But I feel like when we were in college, it just felt years apart because, you West Coast, I'm definitely East Coast. You definitely West Coast. And then even just like I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but like, even when we work together in DC, I feel like, we've always just had an energy and like a kinetic energy that's been between us. So I'm happy we've even been friends for this long.
definitely. And I mean, I also feel like it's been a process and an arc, right? Just in terms of how much we pushed each other, how much we've and I think that even there have been numerous experiences within the workplace, outside of the workplace, that I think have also helped shaped that experience and the relationship. And then I think, as you said, USSA, for those who don't know, that's the U.S. Student Association.
Oh, I thought everybody knew what that was. Sorry.
Okay. That's like it's a huge network of folks that have really organized together, mostly on around higher education, but from an intersectional frame. And so it meant working on a lot of issues that across the spectrum. So that's definitely something that I really appreciate. And I mean, I guess kind of just start things off. Like, I'm actually very curious. Like, what is your recollection of how we even started Can't Stop, Won't Stop, and like what was the impetus of us coming together to create this particular firm?
Well, I think it was two things. One, you always said can't stop, won't stop. Like even before, I want everybody to know that even before Diddy was saying can't stop, won't stop. You were saying can't stop, won't stop. So I just want to trademark. It should be you. But one, you used to always say can't stop, won't stop. And also I think that was like who we were back then. I actually think that is how we still operate. So it's very, it's kind of ironic that that's the name of the company, but we didn't start this for money. Although certainly people used to, when we were student organizers and when we, had other jobs, we definitely were trying to get a little bit of money. But I think that we were, one, looking for an opportunity to train people like us. And I remember, 15 years ago, 11 years ago, when you and I were coming up, and like even when we met each other and we met all these other Black, Indigenous people of color, like I remember us both opening our eyes and saying, wow, like we got to make sure other people like us actually have access to this information. So to me, I can't lie and act like I remember the exact day, that we came up with all this. But what I do remember is you and I were hugely impacted by all these brown and Black and AAPI people that indoctrinated us with all this information about organizing, power, and electoral politics. And because you and I have always had this super tight relationship, I think that it made it so that we could start a thing. And I'm really proud of you, Greg, because you have grown an idea in a basement into something that's really important and special to a lot of people. So what do you remember?
Yeah, so, I was actually thinking about this too. And I remember I actually think the initial idea was actually at your house in Petworth.
Okay. That's probably fair.
And I remembered like part of the, at least the analysis was that we got to be in a lot of spaces where the consultants or the people at the table didn't look like us. And I think what we used to say, they were pale, male, and stale. So not only were they white, they were mostly cisgender males. Like there wasn't a particular energy to them, something that excited folks, something that was innovative. And for me, I was like, look, between you and I was like, you got a Black woman from the East Coast that had family from Georgia and Pennsylvania. And then you got this gay ass Asian from California, like with an immigrant family, right? Like we represented a lot of America. Like, and that was kind of the initial joke, was like, we represented America and we wanted to see more of us, not only like at the table, in these decision-making positions, and that we envisioned that was what democracy, like the reflection of democracy should look like. It would look like more people like us. And so that for me was the like heart of what Can't Stop, Won't Stop was about, and that we knew that we wouldn't be able to get there without this certain perseverance and this tenacity to say, look, we deserve to be at the table, and not only are we going to flip this table, we're going to build our own table and build a big enough table so more and more folks that look like us can be there,
That's
and so that's what I remembered, and I was like, and that kind of drove like any of the people that we tried to build with, or people that would try to like bring us on to, we did a lot of trainings. I was like, I know that we did that. We did a lot of organizing trainings on the front end, but that was at least the heart of it. And I don't know, I guess it's still the heart of it now, frankly, right? In terms of the work that we're trying to do.
But you know what, Greg, I think that this moment, especially just having to be more innovative, I don't think that we started Can't Stop, Won't Stop with the thought around cultural organizing, but I certainly know that you and I both have, we have that piece of cultural organizer in us. So you're a dancer, and I don't know, sorry, somebody called me. Isn't that so rude? You're a dancer, and you have a whole studio in your house where you actually dance in it, and in real life with mirrors. And I'm in real life a DJ. And I think that you and I used to try to hide those parts of our identity. And we used to try to, I don't think that we were ever embarrassed, but I certainly think that we never really leaned forward with like that cultural identity. And that's why it's funny that Diddy says Can't Stop, Won't Stop, because in reality, that nod back to hip hop culture is very much who you are. It is very much who I am. And now I think that because we're more secure in who we both are as organizers, as, you know, people that do impact and love work, that we are okay with saying, yes, I do music. Yes, I do dance. And that's the reason why this facilitation that I do is lit.
Yeah. Well, you know, I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's actually, you know, we clearly are still in a pandemic. And that's one thing that I've been like wrestling with is like, you know, since the pandemic started, there's been a moment that we've had to really reckon and interrogate, like, okay, there are these questions, or there's these things that we haven't actually reckoned with. And one of them for me was, how come I have not been incorporating dance more in my life? You know, and for me, that's been real. Like, I think I felt like it was not professional. I think like colleagues had made me feel like that dance was not, dance was not going to be the right way to organize or engage people. And so I literally blocked it out. I literally rationalized doing all these other things, going to happy hours in my suits. And that's not me. Like, I'm not Steffi wearing a suit and tie all the time. Like, even when I have to wear a suit, I have to wear it with a bamboo. Right.
Or you do a little, what do they call a little cumber?
A little color, a little something, something. And the pandemic has really forced me to say, look, like, you really have to, like, think about how much dance is such a central part to why. So I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Kim Moore, because one thing she tells me, or she told me all the time, was like, seeing you on the dance floor, seeing you on the stage, you are the most free. It's the time where you don't think about anything. You just kind of just you put your heart and your spirit and your soul into dance. And I really had to hold that. And so I am now integrating dance and music in my Zooms, even like in my own personal life.
Yeah, people love that.
And so then, and of course, like, since you're a DJ, it's like a match, because now I can just gig to all the songs that you'd be playing, especially if it's 90s R&B. So, you know, that's important, you know?
It is. And honestly, I think that I was actually on a call earlier today with some of my clients, because I consult full time, as you know, obviously. And they were saying, like, a lot of the people on their team, like, we got to help them get a life. And I was saying to them, I have a life. You know, like, if you look behind me, that is my DJ equipment. I have a life outside of work. And yes, I am an activist. And yes, I love being an organizer. I love the people that I work with. I feel blessed. But I also, and I'm not a natural DJ. You know, I am not DJ Jazzy Jeff. I am Carmen Spin Diego, trying like everybody the heck else. But I think it's important, because most people, you know, when we're trying to talk to them about our progressive language, that's a step removed. When I go and I talk to my family about, you know, the movement for Black lives, or I'm talking to them about a Black queer feminist lens, I got to meet them where they're at. And so if I'm able to say, you know, spit a music lyric, as opposed to, you know, trying to talk to them about this politic, that's closer to being able to actually build. And actually, Greg, I believe in my heart that one of the reasons why you do such amazing, like, multiracial, multicultural, you know, anti-Blackness work is because you are a dancer. Because every single time we do anything, y'all, Greg be wobbling with them, Cupid shuffling with them, teaching Nana how to dance in a damn chair. You do all those things. And I feel like when we were younger, that was white supremacy culture. That was telling us that we could not be our full selves, and that we could not be cool and interesting. And now that we're full grown ass people, like in our stride, we realize that that's our biggest asset, is that we are not boring. Don't nobody want to go to no boring meeting. And ain't nobody been to no boring meetings that are facilitated by Carmen and Greg. And they never will, because that's not, like, if you think about, and, you know, me and you have talked about this before, but I feel like Asian folks and Black folks have so much in common, even though we be trying to act like we don't, we do. And there's never been one time that I have been to in an all Black space where I have not had like an amazing time. And there have been so many times when I've gone to Filipino spaces, other Asian spaces that you've taken me to, and I'm like, we party the exact same way. We dance the same way. We be grubbing. We do communal food the same way. So why in the white supremacy work culture are we acting like that's not the stuff that we absolutely need in order to survive and to move our communities?
Yes, yes. Well, I know that's part of, like, I know our joke before, we said that if we were, our joke before was fried chicken, fried rice.
Okay, well, you know. Well, really, it's pancit and
Come on.
lumpia. I
There
know
you go.
Filipino.
Come
Don't
on
let
with
them
the
think you
Filipino.
something else. You Filipino, Greg. Okay.
Okay, come on with the Filipino culture. You said pancit and lumpia. You said hold
I
on.
learned it from you. Okay, y'all. Greg can make the lumpia is the roll. Greg knows how to fry some lumpia, y'all. Let me put you on, and doesn't eat meat. Remember when okay, I know we're supposed to be talking about progressive politics. I'm so sorry. Okay. So, but I will say, I believe that the reason why you have been successful and why we've both been successful is when people experience us, we try to show up as our authentic self. And we have both in different ways tried to learn other people's culture so that we could show up. And whether it was you're about to do a facilitation and not just you learn about the org, but you learn about like the ethos and the practice and what's the chant, or can we come up with a chant? We've always done that. And I feel like when I think about why did we create Can't Stop, Won't Stop, well, like the arc of who we were to who we are now, thank goodness we thought further ahead than we were even able to dream. So that now that we're older and we're confident, we have a place to hold that. And also what you've been doing, and, you know, I do differently, is like we have a container for Black consultants and Asian consultants and Latinx consultants and, you know, American Indian consultants who are able to do their work to the fullest.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I feel like, especially in this moment, that is so important, because there is an important conversation around how are we actually reckoning with, like, because in order for us to really have some of these difficult conversations, we need to do more healing. And that healing work is cultural work. We need to break bread. We need to do dance. We need to sing and do music, because that for us is how we like connect back with ourselves and our communities and put us in a position to actually have these conversations. And they're not easy, and it's also ongoing work. And so I think that's why the cultural aspect is so important to this work, is because it actually heals and prepares us and allows us to actually have those more difficult conversations with folks.
But remember when healing and wellness was corny? I mean, not that long ago, like needing to take a breath and doing a meditation and doing a stretch used to be corny. And now, you know, I'm working on 2 different conferences right now, virtual conferences. So Lord knows you need so much wellness practice. And so now we've kind of flipped to this place where if you don't have a strong facilitator, if you don't have good wellness practice, if you don't have dance and singing, then actually your meeting is whack. And because we don't know how long we're going to be in this situation. Therefore, the way in which we actually construct meetings has to change and shift. Because if we're just, I was just on a Zoom where I was like, y'all, we have to make this more lit. So every single time I get on the Zoom, I put on UNITY. I put on a little bit of gospel. Today I played, what's it called? Ain't No Mountain High. Because I feel like in order for us to make the progress that we're trying to make, the meeting has to not just be a function of going to work. It actually, because we spend so much time at work, it actually has to have meaning. And whether you're getting the healing, the coaching, the rundown, the campaign, the information, to me, that is extremely important. And I think it's really important to teach our own people how to do it, because us being loud and wild is actually seen in our communities as a deficit. And I think that you and I and many other people that do our work, we've tried to turn it into a positive. Like, oh, your meeting is not provocative and fun. That's the downside.
Yeah, definitely. So to kind of just build on this a little bit, and even as we are kind of like reflecting on this arc of the 11 years that since Can't Stop, Won't Stop was founded, what are the things that you wish you knew then, or what have you learned? Like, what are some of the gems that you learned along the way that you feel like would be important for people to know, or that you even have like recently kind of realized, like, man, this is something that if I knew 11, 12, 15 years ago, like, would have been a game changer.
Yeah. Well, one, I see that my friend Tally was saying, don't call us out like that, Carmen. And they are right. But I'm totally calling them out. But if I knew then what I know now, I can make things up. My friend Jamal Watkins, who's now like the vice president of the NAACP, he taught me that I could have ideas. And I was always afraid that my ideas were too wild, or that nobody would give me any money, or that I couldn't ask for what I wanted. And I think some of that was just growing up as a Black woman and not ever that asking for things as a weakness, or even just, like I said, I mean, I went to all white, everything, all white, high school, elementary school. And I was taught to shrink. And so if I knew then, I think right around 11 years ago, I started to become okay with, you have a big personality, you got to use it for good and not abuse other people, with the power that you have. But I think if I could tell 11 years ago, Carmen, what they know now, it would be those ideas that you are holding to yourself. You should either give them away to someone who is more confident than you, or you should just say them, because the worst the person can say is no. And I used to be afraid of no. And I even still, I still coach myself through it. I still am like, Carmen, you do have power in the world. People do listen to you. You don't have to be the most famous person in order to make change. I am not a king. I am a king maker. And I'm okay with that now. So I guess if I could tell myself 11 years ago something, it would be the king maker is almost more critical than the king. Because if the king don't wake up and make the magic happen, the rest of the shit falls apart. What about you?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things I think I would say. I think one, I would say that that the work is the work has to start with us. Like, the work has to start with us as individuals. Like, no matter how strong, of a program you run, no matter how strong of a facilitator you are, if you don't have the ability to have reflection and introspection, then some of that other stuff isn't as meaningful, or it is not as meaningful as it could be, So that's one thing that I would say. Another thing is that, I think before I was just, I never really saw it like this, but I do believe in building transformative cross-racial solidarity. And that and that part of that work is, yes, building with other communities of color, but it's also taking to task folks in your own community. And that is that's challenging sometimes, especially if it's your family or people who are closer to you, and having to peel back anti-Blackness, peel back anti-Black racism. And so for me, I think there were moments where I felt like, well, I'm so working on this campaign. I am building with these organizations, and that's enough. But that was only one part, and that I needed to do more. I needed to decolonize my mind, and also support and work through with my family and friends and folks in my community to do the same. And the more I leaned into that, and the more I was willing to sit in that discomfort, the more healing conversations I had, the more transformative conversations and campaign work that I was able to be a part of. And so that for me was, and I think even now as we go, is having to be, it also reminded me that it was important to be vulnerable in a way that allowed people to say that me, even as a facilitator, as someone in a position of power or in a particular role, has to also I'm still learning. I'm humble enough to know that I don't know it all, and to be open to that feedback and be open to kind of that you can learn from anybody you meet or that you engage with. Because I think that once you have a particular, I don't know, I think there's a point where there are certain people who like refuse or who don't feel like they can learn anything new. And that for me is like, that's where growth stops. And that's where you won't be able to actually do even bigger and broader things. And so
that's right.
Those are some things that I think that I've been thinking, like, that I felt like if I knew then but I'm so happy that I know now.
And we were 11 years ago, Greg, I'm happy that we were headstrong, you know, because it's probably why we were able to get to where we are. But I certainly feel like, because I thought in my head, how old was I 11 years ago? I was 24. And by 24, you and I had both run organizations. We'd already been the president of the United States Student Association. At 24, I think I worked at the NAACP, Got to Fight If You Want to Be Free. And I really felt like I knew everything. And there were so many people along my path that tried to help me be more confident so that I could receive that I still needed to be educated. And now that I am a little bit older, I don't even need to show up and like front anymore. I don't need to posture. I can just show up and be myself and actually be feeling really grateful that my elders or my peers are smarter than me, or they have something to teach me, because that's actually making me into a better person. So the best piece of advice that I ever got was from Roger Van, who was the chief of staff of the NAACP at the time. And he said to me, you know, you always got to treat people right because you're going to work with them again. And I was like, whatever, Roger. But he was right. Especially if you stay in the same sector, you're going to work with people again. So, you know, I think that so many lessons from 24 to 35, but certainly I love who we've become. Oh, and we look so much better. I wish that we could like pull up a picture of, there's usually one around, but I wish I could just throw up a picture of us at 24.
It's definitely, there are some things that's changed and some things that stayed the same.
Yeah, well, us being crazy as hell stayed the same, but thank goodness we look better. Woo! Anyway.
So I feel like a little bit of this came out throughout, but I'm curious to, you know, I'll ask this to you because I feel like there may be people who'd be curious. Is like, who would you consider your people? Who are your people?
My people. My people are definitely Black, or, you know, Black adjacent. That's light-skinned Black people. And then, I'm just playing. You know, my people are working on themselves. They're not pretending to have it to figure it out. They're definitely working towards becoming their best self. My people are creative, and they think in a circle and not a straight line. My people are working people. They're working class people. They work really hard. My people might even have what they need, and they still work a little bit harder because they know that that's connected back to the next generation. You know, my people love pound cake and cheesecake, and really think about food a lot. And and my people are political, and they want to win. And sometimes I stop myself from saying that because I don't want to seem too nerdy, but I want to win, and I want Black people to win, and I want brown people to win. I'm disgusted by, I live in Maryland, and I don't live that far from DC. I'm disgusted by what's happening in the White House. And sometimes I read the comments on the Shade Room, and I'm like, oh, I have to continue to work every single day to make sure that the material conditions for Black people are shifted. And so even though it is challenging because all Black people do not believe in electoral politics, they don't believe that that is a pathway. And I understand why, because our country has been complete failure when it comes to helping Black people get free. But my people will always and forever, I will always and forever be trying to get us to our freedom, whether we understand why we need it or not. And then my people are you, because you have been my friend for over 15 years. I don't know why. We've eaten crab legs in almost every state. And, you know, and by you, I mean, you know, the people that like didn't know that this was a career path and that we could live off of being decent human beings. You know, those are my people. Who are your people?
My people. So my people are dancers and creatives. My people are speak truth to power and will tell you how they really feel, even if it makes them feel uncomfortable or makes them shake, as they say. My people are like spicy food. Love spicy food.
I have my hot sauce right here.
Well, exactly why you're my people. My people don't take themselves too seriously and love to laugh and love to have a good time.
Yeah.
And as our mama Tri says, likes to have a ball.
Yep.
And my people care about care about their broader communities and care about like taking care of our world for the next generation.
Yeah.
So I think my people understand that, like, even with so much at stake, even with kind of all the turmoil and the chaos that's right now, that we have to keep our eye on the prize, and that while we are feeling and taking in and having to deal with a lot of things, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's this inhabitant of the White House, whether it's people reckoning with racism in a different way, that we still have to fight, and that part of the fight is like having fun, being joyful, and that there's this, like, I like Grace, like something I know Grace Martinez Rosas always says is like joyful rebellion. That like being ourselves and being our full selves is sometimes an act of rebellion, and that it's okay, and that we should find people who are going to nurture us and find people who are going to allow us to do that in ways that are genuine, and that will continue to inspire others to feel that love as well.
That is beautiful, Greg and me.
And I mean, clearly, like, you fit most of those categories. So I just feel like, of course, you're.
I appreciate you. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
When was the last time you felt brave?
Okay. So I will say this. So I will say, because in light of the uprisings and the movement for Black Lives, there's been clearly just I talked a little bit about this earlier, like a reckoning. Folks, particularly white folks, are now like, oh yeah, this is how people feel about things. And I would even say non-Black people of color are also reckoning with it differently. And I'll be honest that Can't Stop Won't Stop has been getting a lot of requests about, can you do a training for us? Can you come coach us for a couple of hours? Can you make us a checklist for what we should do when we're hiring? A lot of wild requests. And there was one group that reached out, and I decided, I was like, let me just see what they're about, and I'm happy to have a conversation with them. And so they were talking, I was hearing their pitch about why they wanted to work with Can't Stop Won't Stop. And it dawned on me. I was like, I just need to be honest, because what it felt like was that they had a list, and they were just going down the list, calling someone that was just going to let them, that was going to do this training so they can check off a box. And so I let them talk, and I said, look, if you are trying to hire someone to be able to literally check via like a checkbox, I was like, I'm not the one.
That's right.
I said, but if you want someone that will be honest with you, will help provide a container for you to have some of these difficult conversations, and to identify some like low-hanging fruit that you could actually work on sooner than later, and you're willing to kind of be in principal struggle, then that's a different conversation. But I said, I probably could have gotten lots of money just to do this training and not to have it be real. But for me, I was like, it's not about that. For me, it was about how am I going to provide this intervention and let this person know that like they're thinking about like diversity, equity, and inclusion wrong, that they it wasn't fair for them to just hire any people of color like owned firm or consultant so that they can just come in and just have them be this one-off training. And that it was important that they actually thought about what their role was as a manager, as a leader, as a decision maker on budget, and how they were even framing or offering whatever training, whatever thing, like whatever like resource they were going to provide. And I don't know, it was like having that clarity was hard because I was like, I could potentially be losing like I don't know if this is actually what they want to hear. But for me, it was like, that didn't matter. And I felt like I needed to step into what I felt was right and what I felt like was going to be important for them to hear. And while it took them forever to like get back to me, they actually got back to me and said, you know what? They actually said, we wanted it. We really thought about what you said. And we not only want to do a training, but we're actually willing to think about what would an ongoing process look like for you to support.
They can handle it. That's awesome.
And so for me, I was like, wow, like that was such an important moment for me because I'll be honest, like when I first started this, I was like, well, I'm just going to just get whatever contract I can get. Like,
no.
And that was not like, and then I was like, and that I had to really shift my thinking as time went on. Cause I was like, no, I only want to work with people who want to work with me. I only want to work with folks who are down and ready to put in the tough work. And in order for that to happen, I have to ask more questions. I have to have stronger and different criteria. And I have to be willing to say no if it doesn't feel right. And so, and as I've gotten more clarity and as I've said more, as I said no more often, or as I've engaged more in conversation, I've not only felt more brave, I've also felt more clear and like more focused and aligned and determined to like continue on this particular path, which has been so freeing in some ways. Cause like I can now, I don't have to like, I don't stress now. I'm like, okay, well, I have to let go and let God, like, cause that's not something that I necessarily need to work on, but I can, but there are these other folks that are down, are ready, and I need to focus my energy there.
That's right. And, being purpose-driven is so important. I mean, there's a lot of ways to make money, but when you identify a way to make money that feeds your soul, that's when you really start to become successful. I don't know. I feel like I've worked places where I've made great money, but I was unhappy, or I knew that was not the job I was supposed to be in. And people, even my family, they think I'm insane. They're like, why would you leave that job, girl? Because I'm not happy, because I'm not doing what God put me on earth to do. And that is not how I want to live my life. And I feel like our ancestors, everybody's ancestors fought in some way for us to sit here doing this right now. And so if that is indeed the case, that there was some, woman or some person that sacrificed, that was a slave, then that, and I am their descendant, then that means that pretty much every single day of my life, I need to be driving my purpose. So I'm happy that you said that, because I did the same thing when I first started consulting too. I was just getting money. Like, oh, I'm going to just take this because I need to pay this bill. And then when I realized, I'd be sitting in meetings with folks and I'm like, I do not want to help you. And I don't want to help you because you don't even want to help yourself. And I told you the other day when I was talking to you, like, I tell my clients now, and my, our firm and your firm too, do not call Can't Stop, Won't Stop. Don't call Dancing Hearts Consulting if you don't want to work with people that act like us. If you need me to come in and not have my print shirt on and lie to you and tell you that everything about diversity and equity is going to be okay if you read this book, fuck that. No. If you want for us to come in and actually analyze, and we are professionals, and not just, professionals in this because you're Filipino and I'm Black. We're professionals in it because we have been executives of organizations. So at no point should you call us in if you are not wanting the real. But then I had to learn on the flip side of that is that if I'm not feeling it, then I should not work in it, because I'm very clear what my purpose is. And my purpose is to get my people free. So if I'm working on stuff and it does not burn me in my belly, no, I'm gonna be all right.
Yes,
and that's
absolutely.
why I say 10% just in case all this blows up in my face.
Oh my goodness. Well, I just wanted, we should definitely have to give a shout out to Dancing Hearts Consulting. That's where Carmen is consulting right now, and give a shout out to the one and only Esperanza. What's up, Esperanza? No, I think that's important. I think, one thing that you kind of mentioned that I think that would be great to maybe just talk a little bit about as we are kind of just thinking about these last couple of minutes together is like, this thing you mentioned something about faith, and I think that there's been this interesting growth too, as like in terms of even my spirituality, even I feel like even your spirituality, and like, and I'm curious, like what's the role of faith and spirituality, and kind of even like how you ground yourself in the work that you're doing now.
God, spirit, universe is a central part of my life. And yes, I cuss people out, and I act up, and I definitely drink happy hour every day at 5 now. I feel so called. Like, when people talk about the calling, I know that God has called me to this work. I know I literally wake up feeling blessed. When I wake up, I read my devotional, and my devotional with Ayanla Van Zant, it's so focused on like, what is your connection back to the universe and God and to the spirit? And when I am closest to God is when my path is moving the straightest. And when I start to, and I don't usually talk about my faith that much, but like, I'm a very faithful person. You have to have faith to do organizing work, whether you believe in Jesus or, what Buddha, whatever. Like, you got to have faith to believe that you can change policy. You got to have faith to believe that our people are going to show up and we're going to be able to change, the mayor of a city. You got to have faith. So when I grew up faithful, I grew up in the church, but when I worked at the NAACP, now them some faithful Black people, and but I learned that faithful people are the most organized. Now, if they kept better data, if Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons, because they knock on doors and they be, riding down the street, if they kept better data, then they would actually be probably the most powerful people in the country. Because of the relationship that people have to church, the relationship that people have to the temple. It's so much deeper than work. And so every Sunday, my husband and I have a ritual where we listen to gospel music. He actually put me on I knew gospel, but I didn't know no gospel. But every Sunday we listen to Clark Sisters. We listen to Richard Smallwood. Like, we listen to all that. And that for me, it became a ritual because it grounds my week. And I read my devotional because I need to wake up every morning feeling inspired, even in this silly ass pandemic. And I know that God is watching over me because I have almost died at least 4 times. And every single time that I wake up from that hospital bed, I know that I'm here for a reason. And, I've shared this with some people, but I'll say it out loud. When I had my brain surgery, when I was 21, and I woke up from, what felt like death, I told myself that day I would never not live my purpose. And so I was always faithful. But after that brain surgery, I said, God is looking over me. And for that purpose only, I will be a faithful servant.
No, I appreciate you saying that, because I feel like part of why I ask is that I think my faith is also one of those parts of my identity that I've sometimes shied away from. But the more and more I did organizing, the more and more I was in social justice work, the more and more I realized my identity as a person of faith is actually it's tied to the work of social justice. Totally. And that and even as I think about, and I think it's part of my own experience growing up of, I grew up in a Catholic household, and Catholics were sometimes homophobic and like were, and so I think there was an like internalized tension of like, okay, well, but like I wasn't really accepted for who I am. But as I also explored and found other faith institutions and places like my current church now, the Community Church of Washington, D.C., shout out to Pastor Aaron B. Wade and Pastor AJ Johnson.
I love you doing pastor shout outs.
But like, it was actually like one of the first places where I was like, yo, like, not only do I feel affirmed as a queer person of color, but literally the leadership are all queer people of color, Black queer leadership in the church. And I think for me, it really challenged me and challenged this notion of what does it mean to have spaces where literally we can be our full selves and literally not feel like we have to shy or hide away. And I think that's the ongoing theme, like that we not only do have to be in purpose, that we should be our full selves. We should do all we can to create the conditions that every other person, no matter how they identify, can do the same. And I think there's something to be said around, yes, like, and even this moment that we're in, right? Like people always like say like, this is a divine intervention.
Totally.
There is no being that has this much power to have this kind of impact on the world, on the entire world. And so there is a lesson that we need to learn, and it may be a different lesson for each of us, but that's why it's important that we interrogate and really think to ourselves, like, what are the things that I've been running from? What are the things that I have not been, that I've been stewing internally, that I haven't given the space for? What are the things that we need to really give time to? Because that's the other thing too, is it's a process, and the process sometimes is the work, and the process is where you'll get more of the gems. And even if you're not going to get to the outcomes that you want as quickly as possible, that doesn't necessarily mean that the process that you're in is in vain. And so, and I think that goes back to what you're saying about faith, right? And like, and that, look, like, I may not necessarily see the light at the end of the tunnel yet, but I know there's going to be a light, and I'm going to get to that light, and I'm going to get to the other side. But meanwhile, like, being in the moment and being where I'm at, this is what I need to do.
That's right. You know, coronavirus has taught me, even though I do feel like I still work a lot, and maybe the relationship to work is different because I'm working from home, 24 hours a day, but it has taught me boundaries in a new way. And it has taught me also what is important to me. I feel like there was a time when I was at the airport every other day, and I was going to this meeting and going to that restaurant. And now the thing that's the most important to me is right here. Like, my husband's really important to me. There are certain people that I'm sure everybody kind of has those folks that you FaceTime every now and again, or you text every now and again. That's become important to me. And, people's birthdays, which I used to never care about, that's become important to me. And I'm sad a lot of time because I'm such an extrovert, and I really want to hang out with my friends, and it pains me not to be around them. But I think that what I've also learned is survival, and like discipline. It takes discipline to not go outside. It takes discipline to not go see my family in Atlanta, and I want to go see them. It takes discipline to be in this situation. And so even though I know on the other side of this, we're going to be okay. I know that one day we're going to be able to go on vacation together again and have fun and like eat our crab legs like we normally do in the summertime. But I'm trying to find the lesson in this situation. I'm trying to really like stay focused, and I'm trying to like make sure that the work that we do is connected back to being a dreamer. Because that's why we started Can't Stop, Won't Stop, Greg, is we had a dream that was bigger than ourselves. And I believe in my heart, and this is why you and I work with a lot of young people that don't know what the hell they're doing, that there were so many there are so many young Black and brown folks that need a place to come work that gives them the permission to dream and to work hard. And so I'm using this time and space to create more opportunities for those young people to be able to fly. And I try to have a low ego about it. Like, it doesn't matter how many young people come and work with me and they leave and they go do something bigger. I applaud that. I think that it's such a selfish, like, leaders get so selfish when they get into that place where they feel like, well, I made you, so no. So that's what I'm using coronavirus for. I'm using it to learn how to DJ. I'm learning it to become closer to my husband and to build more leaders and to put more people onto the game. Because I do believe that no matter what sector you're working in, you are indeed working in a game. And so to learn the rules and how to play the game so you can beat that game is essential. So I'm just trying to teach young people how to do it so that I can continue to thrive. What has this time taught you?
Yes. Well, I see Simone, who is the host of the Nice to Meet You podcast. Yeah, kind of respond to what you were saying, Carmen. Leaders should be making leaders, not followers. And that definitely resonates. And I think especially now with technology and social media, I think that people sometimes mix that up. Because you have a whole bunch of followers doesn't necessarily mean that you are building others up and building other leaders. And so I definitely think that. That really resonates, Carmen, because I feel like that's also some grounding that we got from back to USSA was, if you are we always joke about every time we get invited to something, you got to bring someone with you. And even if you gotta sneak in or lie to tell them that, this is your partner or your cousin or your family member. Yeah,
you've been my boyfriend a couple times.
Yeah. And that's the way to get them in. That was what we needed to do. And I think if we really truly have that commitment to each other and to that commitment to nurturing and being patient and developing and lifting up each other, then I think that is what's going to be transformative, and that's really what's going to change the game. And I think still even at the heart of why Can't Stop, Won't Stop was started, but even what continues to ground it, and even what continues to ground us in the work that we're doing now. And so for folks who are on now or who are going to listen later, we do this for you. We do this for us. And we can't stop and won't stop until literally our people are free. And so wow, that was such a full circle moment right now that as we were kind of just talking that kind of brought me back to this feeling of this is why we started it and why now we're going to have to push forward even 10, 20 more years.
That is right. Well, it's been an honor, Greg. Let me tell you something. It has been the honor of my life being your friend. I love you so much. And, your tenacity and also your drive to care about people genuinely is my inspiration. And I think I've told you that before, but let me just tell you that in public. It is my inspiration. I love it about you. And it's why so many people want to be close to you and they want to be in relationship with you. But as somebody that I just get the privilege to know the wholeness that is you. You are really like that in real life, and you have brought so many people along. And even me, even in us being peers, you never have left me behind. If you have had an opportunity to go to the White House, you bring my Black ass with you. You've had opportunities to go to award shows. I mean, you even have a partner, and you still will bring the rest of us along. So I thank you. Thank you for keeping Can't Stop, Won't Stop alive. Thank you for allowing other people that do consulting work and do soul justice work. Thank you for providing an authentic space for us to be our truest self. And I hope that when you rest your eyes, that's the thing that people remember about you. You were true to the rest of you were true to yourself. But you were true to the rest of us too. And you've never left anybody behind. And anybody that becomes your enemy, they must truly be a horrible person, because I have never known you to not lift your family up.
Carmen, I appreciate you. And this has been a journey, and a journey that I feel really privileged and honored to have been able to be on with you. you have my love and my support always. And thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Gregory. I'll talk to you soon. I'm gonna talk to Greg later. I'm gonna call him a little bit later after I get done eating this chicken.
Okay. Well, before we head out, can you folks, if they're interested in staying in contact or wanting to find out more about any of the work you're doing, how could they connect?
They can find me at Carmen Spin Diego. I work at Dancing Hearts Consulting, so they can find me at Dancing Hearts Consulting online or on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure. Hope you have a great rest of your Friday. Sending love to you and to everyone else. Take care.
Bye, Greg.